Hello, sports fans. I'm Ron Burgundy, here at the desk of ESPN.
We decided to do our video on the topic of gender ideologies in sport. And more specifically than that, we focused on gender ideologies in intramural basketball here at UND. We based our video off of Mesner's experiment that he did with his son, if you recall that soccer picture where we depicted the sociological world. And to start off, we broke down common ideologies of both men's and women's basketball along with co-ed basketball as well. As you read along, try and think if the ideologies in your head match those listed on the screen. I'm sure a lot of the ideologies you had about sports didn't match those that we displayed on our top 10 countdown. You could even think about how a lot of those sports have never made it on an ESPN top 10 countdown. To further back these ideologies, we interviewed two intramural refs to get their perspective on basketball here at UND. Would you rather ref men's, women's, or co-ed basketball?
I would rather ref women's basketball because they do not yell or fight against each other, so it's a lot easier and more slow paced.
Hi Devin, would you rather ref men's, women's, or co-ed basketball?
That's a great question. I actually prefer to ref women's basketball just because they don't interpret me so much.
Next, we took a look at how men and women perform their gender roles in the sport of basketball.
This all started as the game is actually called with 9.4 seconds to go. Xavier gets the win, 76-53, but completely now.
Shumpert comes to Hallis, 6 to shoot. Hallis makes a move in the lane, puts it up and finishes. Sarah Hallis scoring 5 points in the game for Hallis.
Next, we got a little insight from the refs on how well these gender ideologies were performed. What basketball is funner to watch, men's or women's?
I think men's basketball is more fun to watch because it's a fast-paced game and they're more athletic than most of the games that I've seen here.
What do you think is more fun to watch, men's basketball or women's basketball?
Ooh, that's a tough one right there. I'm going to have to say men's basketball just because I prefer the more fast-paced game that they have there.
Is it more entertaining?
Absolutely.
Would you say that men are more athletic?
I would not say men are more athletic, but they prefer more fast-paced gameplay.
Okay. Well, you may be wondering why all this matters. And it matters because every day we live out our gender ideologies because they construct our social worlds, and we won't be able to change them unless we make ourselves aware, and instead we will be forever limited by them. Imagine if the clothes on the girls were switched with those on the boys. Would you still call those boys masculine, or would those girls no longer be feminine? Think about it. Like Mesner, we looked at each team's names. Here are a list of names of both girls and boys team. Take a look at it and see what you think. Can you tell which names go to the male teams and which go to the female? A common trend we found among the names is that the men's team's names were more filled with violence and sexual innuendos, and the women's team names were more, quirky, and they kept it clean. In other words, you could say that both teams fulfilled their gender ideologies of masculine and feminine. Like Messner did with the soccer picture that we saw in class, we decided to analyze the sociological world in which intramural basketball took place. A general observation would be that it takes place on a college campus. A more specific observation would be that it takes place at the one student gym that our college has to offer. When you observe the Wellness Center's gym, you can see that there are 3 courts available, so 3 games can be going on at once. They do have dividers that you can see in this picture, but oftentimes during intramurals, they do not put them down. There is room along the sidelines for students to sit and observe if they choose to. The second story level, there is a track/stretching area that encases the gym. This allows students to watch from the second story. The second story and the sideline makes up the majority of the fan section. Speaking from personal experience, I would say that fans are limited to none during intramural basketball games. The most fans that I have ever seen at an intramural game was during a men's playoff game, and there was around 13 males watching their friends play. It should be noted that girls' games usually have 0 fans, and that anytime people are watching from the track or the sideline, they're usually having their attention focused on the men's games. Obviously, none of the teams in intramural leagues have coaches. Majority of the teams are not structured and they do not run plays during their game. There are both male and female refs. They are made up of the athletes' collegiate peers. Athletes are not getting paid, in fact they have to pay to play, so it's safe to say that the stakes of intramural sociological world are not very high. You could also make the conclusion that outside influences do not play a giant role and the sport is as close to the peers form as possible. After making these observations, you have to wonder, why are people still playing into their gender roles when they are such limited outside influences and when the sociological world of intramurals is so small? One could assume that people are still playing into their gender roles of masculine and feminine ideologies because it was instilled in them at such a young age, and they were separated in sport since they were children. You can still see similarities in kids our age to those that Messner studied in his case study. And you can still see trends in gender differences and separation between guys and girls. To sum it up, by organizing kids by gender, it created a highly gendered experience that you can still see today in intramural basketball. Do you think that intermixing genders at a young age could have prevented this problem? The question we leave you with is, how can we rid ourselves of these gender ideologies at UND, and where does co-ed come into play?